Hello, and welcome back to Cat Got Your Tongue? Nope, I got his. I don't know what that means, but today we're going to talk about the morality of street photography. I've got my notes right here, so if you see me glancing down, that's what I'm looking at. But with street photography getting more and more popular on YouTube by, it seems, every single day, a lot of times the question comes up about the morality of street photography. Is it right to take pictures of people? Is it right to take pictures of people maybe without them even noticing? Today I'm going to go over my opinion and my philosophy on those types of questions, and then we'll see if street photography is really right, morally speaking. Now before we get started, I do want to ask you guys really quickly, I hate to shield right at the beginning, but go check out my Instagram at some street photos. I post pictures every single day. They're brand new, never the same pictures, never reposts. I do reels, I do little skits, I do behind the scenes stuff. I do really cool things over on my Instagram, so I'd really appreciate it if you guys went and checked it out. Drop me a follow and maybe see some of my work, which is really cool. Speaking of really cool, that guy's pretty cool. Alright, now into the swampy depths of personal morality. Now what makes something morally right often varies from person to person. So if you ask a bunch of people what their opinion is, you're probably going to get a bunch of different answers. I'm just going to preface this by saying I'm going to give my thoughts and my opinions. I'm not saying that your opinion should be this. I'm not saying that you should think the way I do, and I'm not saying you're wrong if you don't think the way I do. I just want to share my opinion on the matter since street photography is getting pretty big here on YouTube. I'm sure a lot of people have this question, and maybe it can help you decide if you are kind of wondering the same thing. One note, you don't even have to take pictures of people to be doing street photography. Let's just get that out of the way. They don't even have to be identifiable. You can just take pictures of buildings, of street signs, of cars, of skyscrapers, of skylines. You can do panoramas. You can do so many things and not even take a picture of a person and it still be considered street photography. So if you're really uncomfortable with taking pictures of people, if you really don't want to risk having a weird interaction with anybody, then just don't take pictures of people. That's fine. Now I do want to start answering the moral question of, is street photography right? And when I say street photography, I mean taking pictures of people either with or without them knowing. I want to start by answering this question with kind of a bad answer. And the reason it's a bad answer is because it's kind of a technicality. And to me, if something is technically correct, doesn't necessarily mean it's morally correct, if that makes sense. But my technicality explanation for why street photography and taking pictures of people is okay is that legally, it's not a problem. The big caveat being if they are in a public space or if they are in a readily viewable space from the public. Now, I know, this technicality doesn't justify everything, and like I said, a technicality isn't a justification, but I think it must be said that legally there's nothing wrong with taking pictures of people, whether they know or whether they don't know. I have a great example here. I'll throw it up on screen. It's a picture of a guy talking on the phone in his business through the front windows of his office. Now you could say, well, this is a privately owned business, you shouldn't be taking pictures of him. That would be correct, but if you take into consideration where the office is, it's in one of the main streets in downtown Raleigh. The whole front of the office is huge panes of glass. It's almost inviting you to look in, and that may be part of their business strategy. So they're kind of giving up what's called the expectation of privacy. But basically everyone is entitled to an expectation of privacy, but if they're easily viewable from a public space or in a public space like a park or the sidewalk, then they can be photographed. Like I said, technicality is not a justification. Just wanted to throw that out there that legally it is okay to do. Moving on from the technicalities to the real answer here of the moral quandary that is street photography. I know a technicality is not going to win over the hearts and minds of those critical to taking pictures of people, but I want to jump into more of the moral, philosophical answer, if we could. Now, when we talk about morals, as I said before, there is going to be a wide range of where people draw the line and where people don't draw the line. And for an example, there is a photographer, I really don't even know their name. I've heard about them in passing on other YouTube channels, but basically what they do is go around in New York City and shove their camera in people's faces and take a picture. Now, again, going back to the technicality thing, technically that's okay because I'm pretty sure most of their pictures are on the sidewalk, but morally, I have an issue with that. I would never do something like that. So that kind of illustrates the difference in how different people's morals can drive them to do different things. I think the difference between myself and whoever that guy is are the goals of what our photography is trying to accomplish. Their photography is trying to get people's reaction on the street, and whether you like that or not, that's probably what their goal is. Whereas my goal for street photography and taking pictures of people is to capture candid moments that people wouldn't otherwise either notice or easily forget about. Candid moments such as memories or little situations that people in passing may not even think about. Things that would get lost to time and the fragility of our memories. The stuff I'm capturing, people may not even realize that it is worth capturing. For example, I'll throw this image up on screen. It's a picture of a father presumably taking his daughter back from school on the sidewalk, holding hands and keeping her safe on the way back from school. Now, this may just be a part of their normal everyday routine. After time and time again of doing it, they don't even really recognize it as something really sweet, but from a normal passerby, they might look at that and think, wow, that's a really kind and protective father making sure his daughter gets home from school safely, and that's kind of a powerful image. You'll notice in this picture, I'm taking the picture from behind because A, I don't want to take pictures of children's faces because it's not really my right to publish those images, but B, the story is kind of the same from behind, so you can still get across that nice, wholesome story and capture a really cute moment without even seeing people's faces. In my mind, street photographers with pure intentions of capturing a compelling story with beautiful imagery is perfectly acceptable. If you don't want to show people's faces, just take the father-daughter image, for example. The story is just as powerful. There's just as much emotion in the image, but they're completely unrecognizable. I'd also like to say that even though I'm making a case for not feeling super bad about taking pictures of people as long as they're in public, I would like to say as well that that does come with some caveats. Now, the caveats being, I have another personal morality line that I like to call the expectation of privacy as well. If I'm photographing like the guy in the window, I'm not showing his business address, I'm not showing business secrets, he's not doing anything on a piece of paper that I'm taking a picture of. I'm not taking pictures of like people breastfeeding their children, private moments like that. Those things are completely off the table for me. So I do have moral lines. It just depends on what we're talking about. I'm not saying just take pictures of everybody all the time because legally you're allowed to. You kind of have to define those boundaries for yourself and make those decisions on your own. I'd also like to just say that I have no problem going up to people and asking to take the picture. I've done that numerous times. I'll show you some pictures here of when I've done that, and I don't really have a problem with doing that. You go up to people, you introduce yourself, like, hey, can I take your photo? Your outfit looks really cool. You're doing something, what you're building is really cool. The building you're in is really cool. I would love to capture this image. Show them your Instagram maybe. Say that I'd be happy to email you the photo or just tag you in on Instagram. That's all that people need. And be like, yeah, sure, I'd love to have my photo taken. That's perfectly fine. The only problem is when people kind of aren't expecting to have their picture taken potentially. They're like taken aback. They start thinking of things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like instead of photographing a human in their element doing something interesting, you're photographing a 2x4. And so that's kind of where you have to make your own personal decisions to where it's worth going up to somebody and asking, or just making the image on your own and going about your way. Is it really worth interrupting their day and potentially having those negative thoughts come in their mind? Is that really worth it when you can just take the photo and move on? Since they're just living their everyday life, they probably wouldn't have a problem having their photo taken. And if something to me is interesting that to somebody else is just their normal everyday life, then I have a hard time believing that they wouldn't want that picture taken, because I imagine it probably feels pretty cool to hear that just you existing is interesting. All in all, morals are on a spectrum and they should be interpreted individually on an individual basis. There's so many different ways you could interpret them. But in the end, I think you have to make your own decisions on what lines you're willing to cross and where you draw those hard stops. As one final thing, I live in North Carolina in the United States. This kind of only applies to North Carolinians in the United States. This is not an endorsement for other countries. I don't know other countries' laws, so don't hold me accountable if you get arrested for some reason. I don't know the laws. In the end, don't be a weirdo. Don't take gross pictures. You'll probably be fine. That's going to do it for this one. Check out some of my other POV photography videos. I got a ton of more ideas coming very soon to the channel. Again, it would mean a lot if you went and checked out my Instagram or just subscribe to my YouTube channel. It would mean the world. So I really, really appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one.